All right. Good night. Good night. Got another 2 hours and 10 minutes on my journey back home. Spent a good weekend with a really good friend of mine and his family, which is always fun. His areas, you know, you got like clubs close, and you know, so went to the club once, strip club. So that was okay. Everything was cool with that. He's like, hey, let's go back. And I was like, you know, the next night, and I was like, nah, man, you know, you can't be spending too much money on, you know, women that don't love you. And like, that's just something I've always talked about. But, you know, working with him, or not working with him, but like talking with him, chilling with him, and his kids especially, and his mom, beautiful situation. He's a really good dude. Somebody that you can definitely look at to be on the same level with in some areas, and then also admire in a lot of other areas as well, in the terms of the way his life is, his outlook on certain things. One thing that's great about being a person that is a teacher of something is that you learn, you know. And I think, you know, some of the best and greatest teachers are teachers that are continually learning and receptive to teachings, or, you know, receptive to people teaching them new things. And that's one thing I definitely learned, or I learned a while back, and I try to be open-minded with a lot of things. I always talk about, you know, don't argue preferences, argue results. Are you getting the results that you want? If you're not getting the result that you want, you need to look on the left side of that equation and make sure that you get the result that you want, which is on the right-hand side. And I will say that I'm not getting the result that I want. You know, like I look at him and with the kids and everything else like that. You know, he's in a situation where, you know, he is a single dad. That's not a result I would want or anything like that. And we've talked about it, and I ask him. And it's funny because, you know, when you talk to men about being a single father, it's not like, yo, listen, it's hard. And no, it's just like, it is what it is. And like, he really has no problem. You know, he does have help, but he really has no problem with it per se, because as a man, you don't really trip off with stuff like that. It's just like, oh yeah, well, you know, this is what I got to deal with. This is the cards I've been dealt. This is the situation I'm in, and he's not hurting by any means. By any means. Like, just beautiful family and everything else like that. Kids are freaking smart, and he does what he needs to as a father in terms of enforcing, having a foundation for them, instilling certain manners and behaviors and mannerisms in them, in terms of like how he talks to them, things that he teaches them on the fly. Like, just like, you could just look at it and be like, yo, this is how it should be for black men. Like, this is black male excellence, black single father excellence, black father excellence, period. Definite, you know, as you'd hear on Instagram, goals, you know. So, but we talked about many things, like, you know, my little theory of like over-empowerment of women, and how the over-empowerment of a person, period, but over-empowerment of women especially, is detrimental not to just men, but really to the women themselves, because of, you know, where they are in life, what they want, and they're not getting what they want, but they won't admit that, because a lot of it is pride based, you know. Like, we have so much pride as like men and women, and we don't, with that pride, it's another vulnerability. Like, with pride, we think it's like a shield and we're protecting ourselves, and, you know, nothing will hurt us or get to us or anything else like that. But in actuality, we're covering up a lot of insecurities, and those are wounds that are not really healing underneath that bandage or that facade, if you will. They're just festering. And, you know, then you get into your 40s, and, you know, like, you know, we talked about it because this is something that I thought about the other day. It's just like, all right, cool, I can live a certain lifestyle and everything like that. But I've even told, in conversations with Grinch, I was like, listen, man, I don't want to be 40, 45, 50 chasing after kids. Like, you know, like, I'm getting old, man. Like, and, you know, a lot of stuff has been socially programmed within us. And I even talk about the emotional programming, which is specifically towards how we as people, especially, you know, my focus is on the women. Anybody can do those videos. But how, you know, a lot of people are emotionally programmed to do a certain thing, but socially we're programmed in many ways as well. So with the social programming of men and women, you start to see how we're made to do things like, or no, we're not made, but we're designed, or it's designed, or however you want to look at it, whatever you want to use in terms of words to describe this, but it's designed for us to, or it's by design for us to, you know, wait to delay adulthood. Not even delayed gratification. That's like, no, we want everything now. Everything's faster. You know, you can get the fastest internet for, you know, X amount of dollars less if you sign up for the double play or double and triple play on Comcast or whatever, and then get the streaming packages and blah, blah, blah. And then the contract switches on you in a couple months. And then you always are recurring. You're going through this constant churn of, okay, getting more services, taking off services, and playing this game back and forth. And this is the things that we're programmed to do socially. And one of the other things is that we're programmed to rent, you know? So there's a lot of that, especially when you talk to women our age where, you know, they look good and everything's nice, but they're still renting, or they don't have the same mindset. You know, one of the, you know, another stripper tale, talking to this chick, and, you know, this is one of the chicks that I talked about with self-mutilation, and there was a community post I put up a while back of a text message between me and this woman. And, you know, she's a younger woman, but, you know, she just recently had an abortion. She's still in the club dancing, and then she's talking about, you know, it's crazy to see somebody's face light up when they talk about getting surgery. You know, self-mutilation, as I like to call it. Because if you're getting a surgery that's not saving your life, that's self-mutilation in my book. Me personally, that's how I look at it. You can call it an extreme, but, you know, we already see what's happening. People's, you know, I had a video the other day of a woman's implant just exploding in her chest, and her boob is just caved in and bruised and just disgusting looking. But it's like, you know, but that's not seen as something that is hurting them, because it hasn't happened yet. So you can see her face light up about wanting to get her hip dips done. And, you know, like, the hip dips is just that indent they have on the side of their butt, and it just, you know, it's just kind of concaved. But she wanted to fill it out and all this other stuff. And then she's talking about getting a luxury apartment that's like $1,700 a month. And I'm like, well, why don't you just get a mortgage and go from there? And, you know, people don't want to do this. Socially speaking, people would rather, you know, pretty much give away their right of ownership. So that's the social programming piece of it. So he and I were talking about this. These are the stories and the things that we look at, and the stuff that I even bring to the space. And again, you know, like Black Graham has said in the past, this is therapeutic. So by me talking about this, it helps me, because a lot of the things that I talk about are affecting me mentally, and I'm dealing with it. One of the things I have to deal with, again, back to the original premise, which is, you know, I got to change the equation. I got to change the left side of that equation to get the results I want on the right side. I am not getting the result that I want, so therefore there has to be a change. Talking with my friend, I could see my stubbornness. This is where I learned from him while talking with him, and also seeing, like, you know, how he deals with the kids and everything else like that, which is beautiful. And I've, you know, dealt with my own, my nephew and everything else like that, and also kids. So I can understand it, but there's, you know, there's steps to getting to that point. So with him, he's like, you know, hey, listen, man, you know, Mike, you're gonna have to, you know, wear this, wear that. And I'm like the type of person that is, yo, listen, I wear the shirt with the hole or the stains on it, the Walmart clothes, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, you know, you get the result because of what you're doing on the left side of the equation. What I'm doing on the left side of the equation is getting me the result that I have right now. As I've said in the past multiple times, you're getting a lot of people do not like to admit that they're getting everything that they want out of life. If I was to admit that, which I do on a regular basis, which is why, you know, I don't trip as much as I do. I talk about it, but I don't get really too mad about it, because I understand that I am getting everything that I want out of life right now. And if I want to change that, I'm going to have to change myself, my external appearance, and so on and so forth. So one of the things, of course, is just the weight, which I have been doing, going to the gym. And that's mainly to do it for myself. But there's going to have to be more that has to be done. I have to get back on my old diet and stuff like that. Also, another thing is, like, when I'm visiting him, oh my God, all I eat is Wawa down there, because, like, we don't have it where I live, so I can come down here where he stay at and then just, like, feed off of that and then go back home, you know. So, but you know, changing those habits. But, you know, that's like, you know, you should do that because we're just getting old, period. But changing clothing, you know, like doing little things in terms of what you wear, where you wear it, how you present yourself when you go out and things like that. I don't dress like my paycheck, for instance, right? You know, I do have the nice truck, a nice trim line to the truck and everything like that. I do have a nice home. It does need to be remodeled, and that's some of the things that I definitely want to do, but I did some other stuff such as the workshop and all that first. And now I'm looking at getting, like, you know, some bowerable puppies. So those are like $3,500 to $7,000 to $6,000 for those. And if I want a black one, it's going to cost actually $7,500 for that. So I was looking at 2 puppies. That's another reason, or another thing I did while I was down visiting. And those are beautiful dogs, and they get huge. So yeah, look up those Boerboel. Boer Bull. So farmer bulldogs, pretty much. But they're big, massive dogs. They get 170 for the females to about 200 pounds for the males. So I don't know. I'm gonna think about it a little bit, and maybe I will do something like a little bit of breeding or something like that. We'll see how that works. But sitting there talking with him, man, he was just showing me some of the clothing. Like, he went shopping today, and I just sat outside of the store, and he's like, yo, Mike, you know, you don't have to really spend a lot of money to look good. And I know this because I've done this in the past. But he's just like, man, let me move over a little bit here, one lane. He's like, man, you know, you don't have to go crazy or dummy on this stuff and put a lot of money into it. Yeah, you could say this to, what's it called? Hold on. It's telling me a faster route here. Let me just say no thanks. You know, he's like, yeah, you don't really have to go dummy on it. And I was like, yeah, I know that. And it's like, I could see my stubbornness, and I had to really check myself. I saw my stubbornness in how I answered him, and taking his advice. You know, a lot of people can dish out, but they can't, you know, they can't take it. And the same thing goes for even people giving good advice. Like, you know, a lot of people can dish out advice, but sometimes they really cannot take it themselves. And I noticed that about myself in terms of being stubborn and not really, being accepting or receptive to any type of advice that I'm given. And I was just like, man, you really got to change that. You know, that's something like, this guy's giving you fruit and you're seeing his result, and you want this result or something close to it. You know, a lot of things you could take from it that you like and pick and choose and really design, quote unquote, your life, quote unquote, design how you want your life to be. And I said, listen, man, you really got to change that. So, you know, he was just talking about, like, yo, listen, like, you ain't got to spend a lot of money on these clothes, you know. I think it's Greg, oh man, I forgot, Greg Hoffman or something like that. It's the shirt with the shark on it. It's like some golf wear. I forgot what they call it. Greg something, Greg Offerman or something. I don't remember. But you know, he went in there today, spent maybe close to $500 or something like that, and he got a lot of shirts, a lot of stuff. And he's a heavy set dude as well. Not as big as me for sure. So, like, you know, he has some room in a 3X, but for me, like, you know, I'm different. I am a lot more, I weigh a lot more. But if I lose like 30 pounds, man, that's a game changer in terms of body, and also in terms of feeling and health and everything else like that. So definitely getting down closer to the low 300s and breaking back into the 2s would be a definite benefit. And that's, you know, that's just me taking in what, you know, he's doing, and then also mixing it with my own personal mantras and such, and saying, hey, listen, man, if you want a certain result, you're gonna have to change. And I think, you know, I think that's something that, you know, I'm being stubborn about, because I'm coming from a logical perspective, and how I treat women, how I reach out to women, how I don't play games with them or anything else like that. And, you know, when you know the quote-unquote, like when you have an understanding, it's not just that you have an understanding about women. what's the point of having a, like, let me put it like this. What's the point of having an understanding about women if you won't apply that understanding? You won't, quote unquote, play that game in a sense. Like, if you want a certain result out of a woman, but you have a greater understanding of them, what's the point of getting, how is it benefiting you to have this understanding, but being annoyed by it? And I'm talking to myself when I say that, and maybe other men as well. But if we understand women to the extent that we think we do, in terms of externals and the plural or the duplicitous nature of women, where they have two different people, who they are and who they want to show you, who they want to show, and then who they actually are. You know, it's something that's hard to accept. Like, it's like, even with a logical brain, it's like you look at it from a logical standpoint when you really have to understand that from an emotional standpoint and, quote unquote, use that to your advantage. And I can admit I'm not doing that because I don't want to play that game, you know. But if I want the result that I want in terms of having kids and raising them with a woman to hopefully get that balance to a certain extent, even if it's just for a short period of time, you're gonna have to change the way you do things. You're gonna have to change your outlook. You're gonna have to change how you actually approach the situation. And for that, it's gonna require me to do things differently. I looked around my friend's house and I told him, I was like, man, you're fucking, like, your house is decorated like an Instagram thought. Like, what the fuck? And then I started explaining it to him. He started laughing. He's like, man, fuck you. And he was like, oh, shit. And then I brought up a Cat Williams joke where Cat Williams, he had this bit in his stand-up. I think it's a stand-up where he had the green jacket on. Classic stand-up. And he said, I got silk pillows in my bedroom. I don't use them. It's not for me. It's for the ladies. So people ask me sometimes, and I'm paraphrasing, so I'm making my shit up here. People ask me sometimes, why you got a silk pillow? He's like, listen, I don't use it. It's not for me. I don't like it. But the bitches do. The bitches like it. And that's why I keeps me some silk pillows. And I'm like, yeah, the bitches do. Like, and you could see around his house, and then, like, of course, he has like these 11 fucking candles on his bed, his headboard and everything. And he's just like, yo, these bitches go dummy for this shit. My candle game is crazy, son. And you could see how his house is decorated, and it is to be welcoming and comfortable for the bitches. So if I look at, like, my home is not comfortable for the bitches. It's not. It's like rugged. It's like, we don't care about this. It's minimal. Like, I don't have no real floors. I have just a plain old concrete, and I'm spending money outside of the home in terms of on the building. Now I want to get fucking puppies. That's going to cost me as much as it would take for me to remodel my bathroom. Priorities. I will say my priorities are fucked up in many ways, but I try to correct myself. But, you know, I'm looking at puppies and all this other stuff. What area I'm gonna have to fence in, all this other stuff. Like, you know, you gotta really look at this stuff and say, man, you know, what are your priorities, Michael? So, you know, like, we were going through this, man, talking about it and thinking and, you know, listening to him, and I was listening, and I was being taught, I was being receptive to his teachings, you know, as a brother that I've helped me and, you know, another friend of his, and, you know, whoever else he talks to, help him. So it's just like, okay, being receptive for when he's actually trying to give back and reinvest or reciprocate the teachings for me to change my result. And it was beautiful, you know, like, it's just beautiful to watch. It's beautiful, the camaraderie, the level of brotherhood that we have and everything else like that. And I can also see how myself, hold on. Okay, so I'm approaching Jacksonville here, so gotta go over in a little bit. But me myself, I'm closing myself off in a lot of ways. I'm not getting the result that I want, and I need to change myself to get that result. And my friend is helping me, and I have to be receptive to that, and just so I can, you know, we all have our complaints about, because even he has his complaints, and, you know, he has his way of feeling about something and thinking through it. And we talked about, you know, the pattern recognition of what, the space that I run in YouTube, and that I'm relaying the teachings of to him. And, you know, just telling him, hey, listen, man, a lot of this stuff is pattern recognition. Because there's a lot of brothers out there, like myself previously, and then him now, where they see these things, but they don't even know what it is. They don't know. They see it, right? It's kind of like, now that I have a big truck, every time I have a different respect and look for a 3500, 2500, or an F250, F350 truck. You know, the dualies and everything else. Saw a 35. I talked about this in my last video, where I saw a 30, or one of my last videos. I think I did. Yeah. I saw a 3500 truck. We talked, and then that brother looked at me, and like we talking and like just politicking, and he's like, "Yo, a lot of people don't know this $1,300 a month." And I looked at him and I said, "A lot of people don't know," and we just shook our heads, because a lot of people will look at the status of, you know, things like a Mercedes and everything else like that, and say, "Oh, you're spending a lot of money on it," but they wouldn't look at my truck the same way. They would be like, "Oh, you just have a big truck." And it's just like, do you know how much this costs? Do you know how much some of these farmers and ranchers are dropping on these trucks? You know, like, you better put some respect on this 2500. You better put some respect on this half-ton or ton pickup truck. You know what I mean? Like, yo, put some respect on this towing capacity, bitch. Put some respect on my trailer mirrors, nigga. Like, that type of stuff, you know. And that's a little bit of external validation, or you know, fiending or wanting external validation. But that's kind of what, you know, we see. Like, that's the pattern recognition of it all. Now that you go through things like home ownership and getting a house, like I talked to him, it's like, yo, listen, I don't have the same level of pattern recognition when it comes to buying a house as an investment and flipping it. I have pattern recognition and understanding of buying a home for myself, for maybe family and stuff like that, but I don't have the same level of pattern recognition as you do. He wouldn't have the same level of pattern recognition when it comes to me buying, for the research that I've done in terms of buying land. And the work, you know, and there's still stuff for me to learn there, because I haven't purchased a piece of land, so I don't know how that looks and how to really, quote unquote, guide somebody in that endeavor. So these are the things that, you know, that this space is providing a lot of us, where we're looking at this and we're really breaking this stuff down and giving it to people, investing back into the space that has invested so much into us. Yeah, so I mean, that was just, you know, a little bit. It's a bit of a ramble there, but it's a mindset ramble on terms of, like, you know, hey, listen, I'm gonna have to personally, you guys are my rubber ducky in a sense, and this is my expression and my thought, and I'll send this to my friend, because, you know, I have to really respect what he's doing and what he says in terms of how he, quote unquote, plays the game, and how he traverses and gets to the higher levels, places that I would like to go in some cases. You know, he said one thing that was very profound in terms of view that really hit him, and he repeats quite often. A lot of people, you know, a lot of your perspective or your viewpoint is the perspective and viewpoint of a turtle versus a giraffe is vastly different. It's far different. You know, it's just incomprehensible for a turtle to have the same viewpoint as a giraffe, and the same thing vice versa. Although the giraffe can see some of the same things as the turtle, but not to the same level of detail. So one of the things that he was saying basically is the places that, you know, the women that we're talking about, or that we've talked to and stuff like that, a lot of times we're talking to turtles, and we're turtles ourselves because we're talking on their level. But we can also, but we're actually holding ourselves back in a lot of ways because we're not talking on the level of a giraffe, even though we can. You know, once you start making, like, you know, your 6 figures, your neck is getting a little bit longer. Now, it is not a, you know, 200,000, $500,000, you're not that giraffe. Your neck ain't that long. You know what I mean? Like, we just got birthed and we just started walking, and, you know, there's a lot of danger still out there. So I will, like, you know, not admit, but I will accept definitely that viewpoint that, yo, listen, I'm talking to turtle ass bitches because I'm being a turtle ass nigga myself. So that's a very powerful viewpoint, and he has a way of saying it that's a lot better than me. But I thought that was actually pretty profound, and that was definitely a great way to summarize or sum up, you know, the weekend in terms of viewpoint and perspective. And it's crazy because I talk about it, but I talk about it a different way. One of the analogies or ways that I actually relay that type of information to people, and I said this years ago when I was talking to somebody, I say sometimes you're just a little bit too close to things. If you're driving, you know, you don't see the traffic in front of the other vehicle. You're going to have to drop back a little bit so you can survey and look at more lanes. Instead of having a viewpoint of the truck bed or the trunk or, you know, the license plate, you need to be looking at not just that, you need to be looking at all lanes of traffic so you can travel and make proper decisions on your way. And I think that's very important. I think that's something sometimes, you know, I'm looking at it too. If I was to use my analogy, not just his, but I'm looking at it as a turtle, and I'm also looking at it in a license plate view. I can see what's going on with the license plate. I can see the behavior of the license plate. I can see how the license plate reacts. I can predict how that license plate, you know, what the next letter is going to be, or how the next letter is going to be, or when that license plate has to be re-registered. You guys get the point. I'm sticking to it a little bit too much. I need to be looking at all the lanes of travel and be able to move across all lanes of travel with ease. And that's a part of my problem. I am not adaptable at this point because I'm looking at the license plate, the logic, the thinking, not just the emotion, but the thinking. I'm looking at it too much. I am too close to it. I am missing the forest for the trees. I'm looking at one tree, but I am missing the forest. So, with that being said, I will end this because I'm just, you know, reiterating and driving the same points home. To my nephew that's out there, man, I hope you are listening to some of these videos, and I know he does, and I hope he gets to the point with points like, you know, where I'm driving some of these things home and everything else like that. And to my homeboy Sean, definitely love you and your family, man, and I appreciate the time spending with you and all that stuff too. You know, and I should be probably back down here again next week, and hopefully I could hook up with brother Richard Dixon and properly celebrate his accomplishment, man. And he's been working hard, man, and it shows. And these are the things that, you know, these are things in the accolades that we do want to quote unquote reward. You know, there's a reward in it for him as a grown man and everything, but the reward of, you know, the reward of other people validating that as well. Not that he needs it, but it's always nice. You know, these are the things that, you know, brothers will complain about, where they're not getting the attention that other people in their family would get. And that also actually puts a crack in the foundation to a certain extent, which is kind of crazy, man. So with that being said, I want to thank you all as always, and I love and appreciate you all, and I'm here for you in any way, shape, or form. And also shout out to Brother Gold Professor. Definitely great chopping it up with him the other day. And I'm always here to talk with other brothers so I can learn more as well. And also, as a teacher, it's one of the biggest things that you can do is learn and continue to learn. All right, as always, thank you very much. Peace.